I received a piece of white canvas to make a journal cover with, so this should be fun. Welcome, it's Barbara from Vienna, Austria. So I was invited by Peggy from the paper Bumblebee, who is also one of my fabulously talented design team members, along with 3 other junk journal creators, to make a junk journal cover with a piece of canvas. So you can find the playlist below this video with all the videos from the other participants, and I can't wait to see what they came up with. So this is the canvas. It's just a plain white canvas. I'm not sure how plasticky this is. I mean, this backside is clearly very plasticky, but the front almost feels like a mixture of plastic and fabric. I don't know what the classical canvas is made out of. So I am super excited to see what I can make with this. And Peggy also included a very cute tag. Love it. Thank you so much, Peggy, for inviting me and for this fabulous idea. I have recently experimented with some eco dyeing. If you would like to check out those experiments and see what worked and what didn't work, you can find that video linked below as well. And this time I'm going to try something different again. I am going to use my alum again. So you can find this on Amazon. In German, it's Alaun. Apparently, you can find this in supermarkets in North America. I don't know where it's cheaper, whether it's cheaper in the craft store or in the supermarket. I suggest you do some research. So I'm going to put in about half a cup, and then I'll just add some water. My pot is filled almost half. Just stirring this a bit. And then I'm also going to add some rust or iron water. So this is simply a jar with some iron bits in it, and I've left this standing for a few weeks. So now it's nice and orange and rusty. So I want to add some of this. And then I'm going to soak my canvas in this. About 30 minutes. Then I will take this out and add the leaves to soak for about 15 minutes. And then we will wrap it all up. And I'm using gloves because the alum and the rust, of course, they both give a chemical reaction. And I just want to be sure to be safe. So the leaves have been soaking in here for 15 to 20 minutes. So I will take these out now as well. And by the way, if you want to take your eco-printing to the next level, then please go check out Louisa Heinzel's video, which is also linked below. Her results are absolutely breathtaking. Definitely worth watching. So here's my canvas, and next I'm just going to add the leaves to my canvas and hope for the best. I'm completely aware that you might be laughing at me right now, thinking, how on earth do I expect anything to print on canvas? But I have to try it because I don't know. It might work, who knows? And if not, then I will at least know that. Please don't ask me what kind of leaves they are. I have no idea. I found these on my walk at the Castle Schönbrunn, where I always walk. These, I guess, are chestnut leaves. And so many of you have suggested in the comments under my eco dyeing video that I should use onion skins. So I only have the yellow ones, not the red ones. But I guess they will add color too. I found this stick on my walk today, and I think I will just try to roll this up as tightly as I can. Now we need some twine, and I'm just going to wrap this around as tightly as possible. I'll first tie it on one end. Then I'm going to add a few of my rusty metal pieces. Actually, not that many. Okay, not too many because I don't want this to get very black. Then I'll also add some apple vinegar for good measure. And finally, I will add some of the water with the alum that we used to soak everything in. Okay, so I will put this on my stove. I will put a brick on top of this so that it stays down and immersed in the water. And I will let this simmer for about 1.5 hours. I let this simmer for 1.5 hours and then I let it sit in there until it's now lukewarm. I'm ready to unpack this, and the more I think about it, the more crazy I think it is to think that this will actually work, because I just don't think that the canvas is a material that will hold these prints. But maybe we'll have a beautiful surprise, who knows? The big moment of truth. Fingers crossed. I am so super excited. We do have some color. Okay, it's not a complete fail, obviously. That's a relief. Oh, wow. I was not expecting this. Oh my goodness, it worked. I think the onion skins actually helped a lot, because I think all this yellow is from the onion skin and not from the plants. Even on the back side, which is super plasticky, we have some prints. I am super surprised and very relieved and happy. Oh my goodness. I cannot believe this worked. I just cannot believe it. I can definitely see leaf shapes here. Oh my gosh, this makes me so happy. Let's check the back side. How does this even work on plastic? What? The onion skins. I think that was mostly the onion skins, but I can also see leaf prints on the back. How cool is that? Wow. Look at that. Can you see? Okay, I will definitely show you this once it has dried. Oh my goodness. It actually worked. And then we have a bonus. Because I thought if the canvas doesn't work, and I was really quite convinced it would not work, so that I would at least have some sort of a success feeling, I just put some of the leaves that I had left over. I first soaked them in the alum water that I had anyway, and then I put those between my matte photo paper, and I added a little bit more water to the pot and some vinegar and some onion skins just in the water, because I kind of forgot to put them in here, and no rust whatsoever. So I am super curious to see if these turned out. I have had plenty of viewers comment below that eco dyeing video that they have used regular copy paper and they have had super great results. So don't worry if you don't have matte photo paper. Just try it with copy paper. Oh yeah. It looks like this worked well. These dark ones here are petals of, what are they called? Poppies. And they turned into this beautiful violet. Gorgeous. I will show you these definitely again also when they're dry. So you don't necessarily need the rust. I think you need either the alum or the rust. I think if you don't have either, you might not get very good prints. I will rinse everything and then you'll see it at a later point when they are dry. So it's the next day. This has dried and I have ironed it also. So here you can see the print. So we do see the leaves and everything. All of this yellow is from the onion skins, which actually I think is a bit much because it's overpowering the beautiful leaf imprints. And it made the whole thing very yellow. But still, I have to say I'm super happy that this worked at all because I really didn't think so. And as I showed you already yesterday, well, for me it was yesterday, this is the side that is a lot more plasticky. And I am super astonished about this one because on this side, the prints are actually more precise. You see all the details here? Of course, also the onion skins are there in more detail. I would have never ever expected that. So I am truly thankful that this worked. Let me also show you the bonus print, so to say. There's one. And the backs are totally not significant at all, but that's okay. There's number 2. This one is the darkest and this is the one I tore most. I always have an issue with rinsing these thin papers. I tend to tear them a lot, unfortunately. I love this dark detail here on the leaves. That is just gorgeous. And I love these very dark spots here where the poppy petals were. And this one, yeah, not that great, but okay. And we have this one and this one. They're not phenomenal, but they're fine. I can definitely use some parts of this in this journal, actually. I think that would make sense. So the question when making a cover is always, what do you use as the structure of the cover? Because this, even though it's canvas, is not just fabric. It is definitely more stiff than fabric. I still think it's too flimsy to be a cover on its own. So I want to give it a little bit more body. I have decided to use this mailer from Amazon. I really like using packaging because it is so sturdy. I definitely know this is not going to tear. You can also just use a paper bag instead, like I always do. So the next thing is to decide on your size. And thinking about the papers I want to add, I think I want to go with an A5 size. I will write the measurements of that here for you in inches. So this is what I want my signature size to be. So basically that's our standard A4 size folded in half. That's A5. So that will already determine the height. I want it to be a little bit taller than my papers. I'm going to leave about 1/8 of an inch or so on the top and bottom. So I'll mark that here. And then I'll just take my ruler and make a line. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this. Now I need to determine the width, and the question is now, do I want it to wrap around a little bit, or do I just want it to flip over like a regular cover? I'm going to make a regular cover, so I need to take into account that it needs to have a spine, of course, for the signatures. I'm going to leave like a little bit of space here. It actually has a fold here, which seems to be in the perfect spot for the spine. You see that? That seems perfect. If I make 3 signatures, that looks like it has actually the right width for that. I'm not planning on adding pockets or tuck spots or anything in this journal, so I don't expect it to expand. So I'm just going to take this, and I can now mark where I need to cut this. Double check it. Yep, that looks good to me. So now I just want to glue this closed. And then I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and sew around it once to close everything up. As always, if you don't have a sewing machine, you can just glue everything closed. So once everything is sewn, this already looks a lot more like a journal cover. And now I need to decide what portion of this canvas do I want on the front of my cover. And I think I want the one that looks most natural. If I were to do this again, I would not put the onion skins inside. Like I wouldn't roll the onion skins into the fabric. I would, if at all, add them to the water on the outside because I really don't like this. This is really too dominating. So I want to have this part here on the front of my journal because that looks the most natural. So that would wrap around like that. So that would be approximately like this. I think that's nice. So that means that I need to cut this. I will leave a border of about 1 inch. Let's see if this will tear. That would be nice. My goodness, it feels so plasticky. I can't imagine this tearing at all. I can hardly even cut it. Oh, it does. Yay. Let's see if it will tear in the other direction too. Yes. Then I'm going to take some PVA glue. Doesn't have to be PVA glue. You can use what you want. I know many people use bookbinding glue. And I'm going to spread this on the outside of my cover. And I'm going to do this with this tool, which is kind of like a credit card thing. It's just a little more fancy. I could have just put the glue directly on here. Yes, that's true. This is faster than using a brush. I did get a comment in one of my previous videos saying that when you spread glue on fabric, it's much easier to do it with a credit card type thing than with a brush. It's much faster and easier to spread, and I can totally see that that's true. So let's be smart and put it directly on here. I'm going to be sewing around this again, so I'm not super worried about it maybe not going all the way to the end. But if you're not going to sew, then obviously you make sure that your glue goes all the way to the edges. So now let's turn this around. Then we need to cut the corners off. I think I should use fabric scissors. Much better. I'm just leaving a little bit of a gap here. I'm not cutting all the way to the corner of the paper bag. That will just make nicer edges. Or corners, I should say. Okay, so now we need to glue these edges down. And this time I am going to use a brush because I cannot be as precise as I need to with that credit card thing. If your glue seems too thick to spread with a brush, you can just add water. So now when I fold this, initially I wanted this as the front, but actually seeing it like this, I think I do want this on the front because it just looks more lively. So yeah, changed my mind, that's okay. For the inside cover, I'm going to use one of my eco prints from my eco experiments, which is the video that is linked below, just because these are not as torn as the other ones that I just made yesterday. So let me pick one of these. I think maybe this one would be amazing. I have these in digital versions as well, and you can find those linked below. Obviously, this is not wide enough, but that is totally fine because I can just cut it in half, put half here and half on the other side, like this. Then for the middle, for the spine, we could just tear off a strip of this. Yes, that's perfect. I'll first glue these on, but before I do that, I'm going to distress the edges with forest moss this time. I don't need to worry about this edge, obviously, but on all the 3 other edges. Oh, that's gorgeous. Again, I should have put it directly here instead of first here. My learning curve is not very high. I am going to be sewing around this one more time, so I am not super worried about the edges again. And now I can tear a strip that's wide enough to cover this gap and overlap a little bit. I want the fabricy side on the inside because this one is too dominant with the yellow, I think. So I just need to cut that down to the right height. And then we add some glue to that, preferably on the right side. I'm going to let this completely dry now, and then I'm going to stitch around the whole thing once. You could also do that by hand if you don't want to do it with a sewing machine, but you don't have to do it either. I changed my mind about the sewing because of how I glued these 2 pages in. If I would have gone more to the edge, which I should have, then I could have easily sewn around it. But since there is quite a wide gap here, I just think it would look strange when I have the stitch going not on the edge here, but in quite a bit. It would be here. And I just think that probably wouldn't look so nice. So I'm just going to leave it as it is. I did go around and make sure that all my edges are really glued on well. Next, I want to think about my closure. That's always an interesting part of the journal, right? So one thing I could do is just use some ribbon. This is ribbon that I have dyed while I was making my Art Nouveau journal. I just used my forest moss and sprayed water and just mixed, and I think I also added some watercolors. You can just experiment. This was a tablecloth. One easy thing to do would be, of course, just to glue a strip around like this, and then you could just tie it off here. That would look cute. You could, of course, also do the same thing by gluing it onto the inside like this, and then you would just tie it off like this. If you're really smart and figure this out beforehand, you can obviously put the ribbon underneath all your papers so that you don't see it on the inside. I'm not going to do any of those. I want to try something else. This here is also dyed. This is from the same tablecloth, and it's the part which is on the edge, which is double. And this is dyed in the same way, and I think it fits beautifully. It is darker, but I don't mind that. And what I'm thinking of is the following. I'm folding this in half. And I think this just happens to have the perfect length for what I want to do. And then I'll lay it here so that I have this loop here at the end. Not too big, just enough for 2 of these to go through. But I'm not going to sew it or anything or glue it on here. I'm simply going to hand stitch right here on the spine. And then when we want to close it, we can just wrap these 2 there and then pull them through the loop. And they can be closed like this. This way the closure would also grow with the journal, because of course when it gets a little more fat, and of course we don't have the signatures in yet, this then obviously would adjust itself, right? So why not try that? But this is going to interfere with the sewing in of my signatures because I plan on sewing those through the cover. So I'm going to have to do this after the signatures are in, which actually might even be better because that way I will know exactly how wide the spine is going to be. I don't know how easy it's going to be to sew this in when the signatures are in, because I'd have to sew it in between the signatures, so that might be an issue. I wonder if I could then just glue it on the outside. I will figure that out once I have the signatures in. Now remember, I wanted to put in some of my eco dies, and a lot of them are really completely torn, like this one here. But we can still make something nice. So if we take this, for example, this is regular copy paper, coffee dyed, super plain. So we could spice that up a bit by adding some pieces of our paper. And we can just tear it so that it looks intentional. And we could just glue that on. I think that looks great. With this one, we could maybe just do a strip, because this one is still pretty much intact. You could, if you wanted, to make this into a pocket or a belly band. What do I want to do? I will edge this with my forest moss for starters. Always a good idea to ink if you want to procrastinate. You don't know what to do. It's such a gorgeous print, actually. But I didn't want to... No, you know what? I'm going to make this into like a cover page for this signature. And this might be the first signature that I have. And I'm just going to glue this on as it is. It does have a few tears in it already, like here and here. So I'm just going to glue this on. This one I now glued on actually as a tuck spot because I just think it has such a cool shape. So that will be another front page of another signature. And let's do one more. Let's take this one. I think I like the organic shapes better. I did say I didn't want to add pockets and tuck spots, right? But somehow these images seem to work perfectly once they're torn. So this is now a pocket. That's why I usually don't like to make plans for my journals, because they always take a life of their own. They will tell me what they want, and this one wanted to be a pocket. So there it is. I also quickly printed 3 of my EcoDye prints. Those are the ones from my shop on regular copy paper. So that's 1, 2, and 3. And since the back sides are very plain and boring, let's change that. So I just have a dish with my coffee mixture that I use for coffee dyeing my papers. I don't have a recipe. I just kind of mix however I want to. The mix changes every time I make it, so I just kind of go by what seems right. I mean, everybody likes a different mixture, I think. And I took different sizes of round objects to just make some fun design on the back. So I'm just going to dip this, and then we'll see what happens. I think it's fun to have different sizes. I also like that there's some splattering going on, and you do as many as you feel you want. So I'll do that for the other 2 and then dry them. So these are all dry now. One thing to note for sure is that some of the coffee will go through. So you see it here coming through to this side, which I think just adds to a cool design. But something for you to be aware of if that's something you do not want. I quite like it. So I'm just going to add those to my signatures, and then I'm ready to sew those into the cover. I've put 5 holes in each signature on the same spot. That is helpful. I put the corresponding holes in 3 rows here into the spine. I have about 1.5 centimeters between the signatures, and the thread I'm going to use to sew them in is this kind of like ochre color that I really like. I measured 2.5 lengths of the height of the book to measure how much thread I need for each signature. And now I'm just going to go ahead and sew these in with the 5-hole pamphlet stitch. Okay, they're all sewn in, so they fit in there beautifully, but I don't like seeing the stitching here on the outside, I decided. So I'm simply going to take another piece of my fabric and glue that over the spine like this. And I'm again going to use my PVA glue for this. And I just realized I sewed in the signatures backwards because I wanted this to be the front, but it's backwards. And with most of these papers, it doesn't matter, but we have the pocket and the tuck spot. So it does matter. So do I just leave it and say this is the front? Or do I re-sew everything? Oh, what a bummer. These things keep happening. Yeah, I'm not happy with this as the front. Oh no. Yep, I'm going to have to take it all out again. Okay, see you when I've done that. One tip if that happens to you and you need to take out your signatures again, put a paper clip on them again before you take them out so that you don't lose where your holes are, so that they still line up afterwards. So I've re-sewn the signatures, and I must say it's so worth the extra effort. I'm so much happier with having this on the front. So if you ever are in that situation, make the extra effort. You will be happy afterwards. Maybe take a walk around the block first. Take a deep breath and then start over. I know it's annoying, believe me. Actually, I just glued this on the wrong way. I want it to go this way. I still like the idea of having this here like that. I don't know if I can sew it through because of course the middle is where the middle of the middle signature is. I could probably do it just a little bit off center so that it's between the first and the second signature. In any case, I think it would make sense to glue it down first. Now glue them on top of each other. I don't know if this is a good idea. Okay, I'll let this dry for a bit and then I'll see if I can stitch through that. So I took my awl and poked a hole on either side of this ribbon, and now I'm just going to go around it a few times, and I am right in between 2 signatures here. At the end, I'll just tie it off on the inside. And I'm just taking a regular sewing thread from the sewing machine for this. Okay, so on the spine we now see this stitch, which I don't mind at all. On the inside we have this, which doesn't really bother me at all either. But let's see if this actually works. Maybe it was all for nothing. Oh, but it works. Look, it's great. Yep. So maybe that's a closure you want to try as well. So if you try this, make sure your loop is just a little bit over your cover. If it's too far out, then you won't have any tension. It needs to have just a little bit of tension. Oh, this makes me happy. I came up with something new. And as I said, it will grow, obviously, if you journal. gets fuller, obviously this will grow. Yay! And lastly, I'd like to add this cute metal label holder. Normally, of course, you're supposed to add the brads through whatever you want to attach it to, but the cover is too thick anyway, and the brads are so small. So I do like the look. I didn't want to have the empty holes here, so I just put the tiny brads through, and I cut off always one of the legs that it has because it would show from underneath. And I'm just going to glue this on. Or actually, it's probably easier because I want to add a label here. Let's do that first. I think that's easier. I just have a strip of coffee dyed paper here, and I'm going to stamp the word journal with my 12-digit roller stamp. I have these linked for you below in my links. I'm using espresso truffle, which is almost like black. I always like giving this a test stamp, which I've done here, because it's kind of tricky to line the letters up. So this is okay. And now I need to figure out how am I gonna do this. Actually, this is not okay. This is totally crooked. Hang on, I need to do this again. Okay, this one's a bit better. Still not great, but better. That made no sense what I just did because I cut away my markings now. This is not so easy. There has to be a better way to do this. I think I'm just going to glue this on. It's completely crooked, but it's okay. I will just glue this on because I don't need to take it out to change it. I'll just leave it as it is. Now let me not glue it in upside down. Okay, it's straight-ish. And now I'll just glue the whole thing down. And I'll make sure my brads are turned so that they don't stick out anywhere. I'm going to clamp this down for a while with my heavy-duty clamps because I really want to make sure that this does not. So let's do a final flip through. I don't know why this closure is making me so happy. So this is from this side. This is the back. And I'm so happy I chose this for the front. I've sewn around the first signature page of each of the 3 signatures. I used a wonky straight stitch. This is the paper I have stenciled through. These are my saltwater coffee papers. These are my coffee dyed papers with ink blots. And these are my coffee bubble papers. And if you want to know how to make any of these, please check my coffee dyeing playlist below. I show you all of these techniques as well as this one here, which is a really cool technique as well. This is the one we did today. So as you see, I kept this very plain. I don't know how much more I will do in here. I actually love how peaceful it is because there isn't that much happening. I kind of wish now that this was a pocket because we have pockets on the other 2 front signatures, but it is what it is. I just love how these look. This is a junk mail envelope that goes around. And if you want to know how I did that, please go check out my bubble video for junk journals, which is in that playlist with the coffee dyeing. And I do that one there as well. I love the variety of papers, and I actually love these kind of journals which are not embellished so much because that really allows the papers to speak for themselves. So this was our pocket. This is an envelope. You can also find digital versions of these kind of papers with the salt water, and also these, and also these. You can find all those links below as well. That's the other side of that envelope. And there's the back. I'm super happy with this journal. Maybe you want to try one out as well. You don't have to use canvas, just use fabric. That will work just as well. Peggy, thank you so much for this challenge, and go check out the playlist below to see what everyone else did. That's what I'm going to be doing right now. Love you guys. Mwah, mwah.